troubles come and my heart burden be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. There is no life without its hunger. Each restless heart, it's all imperfectly. But when you come and I am filled with wonder, sometimes I think I lived eternity. You raise me up so I can stand on. Raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. Raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can be.
That was You Raise Me Up by the Color Music Children's Choir. We are so thankful that during this pandemic, God lifts us up every day. Welcome to the October General Meeting of Providence United Methodist Women. I am Carolyn Phillips, the current president, and I'm so happy to have you join us for our second gathering this fall to be live streamed directly to you in your homes. We were thrilled last month to have 99 of you tune in either during the live production or afterward to view the recording. It's a little harder to present a program these days, and there are 4 talented people who are helping me bring this production to you today. I want to thank Russ Case, Carlos Canarte, Brandon Dirks, and our very own UMW member, Gloria Sin, is the camera person today. It's wonderful to know that those of you at home can still enjoy our programs even when we're not allowed to gather together. Thank you for your attendance Each one of you is special to me. Our circles are gathering by Zoom, so if you are new to UMW, please feel free to contact me through the church website, and I'll be happy to recommend a circle where you can experience a small group in UMW. Now, Valerie Wilson, our Spiritual Growth Coordinator, will open our meeting with a devotion.
Good morning. The focus of my devotion this morning is St. Francis of Assisi, whose Saint's Day is October 4th. You know, we don't talk much about the saints in the United Methodist Church, but I'll bet that most of you have heard something about St. Francis. He was born around 1181, and his father was a cloth merchant. Francis grew up in a very wealthy family. As a youth, he spent money lavishly on clothes and partying, and he really wasn't very interested in school or in a feud between the city of Assisi and a neighboring city. He was a captive for a year and actually did very well in captivity. But when he was released and was returned home, he was struck down by a long and dangerous illness. After he recovered, he was determined to join an army that was fighting in southern Italy. He decked himself out in expensive equipment and a handsome outfit. But as he rode out one day, he came upon a man that he knew, who was dressed in rags. The man had been reduced to poverty. Touched, Francis got off his horse and gave him all of his expensive clothes. Later, Francis fell ill once again. And during this illness, he heard God speaking to him, saying that Francis was to serve the master rather than the man. Francis returned home and he recovered from his illness. And once again, he was out riding and had an encounter with a leper. The man was horribly deformed by his illness, but Francis got off his horse and embraced him. He started visiting the sick, and he started giving his money and possessions to the poor. One day he was praying in the church of St. Damien, and once again he heard a voice which said, "Francis, go and repair my house." Francis took this quite literally. He took some cloth from his father's warehouse, sold it, and then brought the money to the priest at St. Damian's to make repairs on the church, which was in poor condition. The priest refused to take the money, but the priest did agree that Francis could stay there with him at the church. When Francis's father heard this, he was enraged. He went to the church and dragged Francis home and actually chained him up in his bedroom. Eventually, he was freed by his mother, who took pity on him, and Francis returned to the church. When his father threatened to disinherit him, Francis did not object, saying that the money really belonged to God and the poor. He even gave his father back the clothes that he was wearing, and instead put on a simple robe, which he marked with chalk. He marked a cross on his chest. Francis set out to repair some of the old churches around Assisi. And people heard about this, and they were attracted to the simple life and his devotion to the poor and serve the people around him. Francis called his companions and his order Friars Minor, who took vows of poverty and went about preaching and helping the sick. Sometime later, Francis also created a nativity scene one Christmas to emphasize that Jesus was born in a lowly stable. And today we still have the practice of displaying creches or nativity scenes, especially at Christmas time, though I have to admit mine's up all year round. Francis continued to have health problems throughout his life. He died at the age of 45. His legacy of the Franciscan order lives on today, serving the poor and needy. And this is our mission as well. We tell the stories of the saints to be inspired by them, but also to be reminded that when we are working with God, even ordinary people can do extraordinary things. I'd like to close with the prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Thank you, Valerie. I'd like to give a fellowship report before I move to business. We want to keep the Hannah circle in our prayers. This is the circle of our developmentally disabled young women, and this time is extremely confusing for them. Pat Treadaway suffered a stroke last summer, but she is going to rehab and making good progress. Jenny Fowler has had knee replacement, and she's also doing well and sends her thanks for your cards and support. In the Elizabeth Circle, there's also a prayer concern for Judy and Paul Williams. He is ill, and hospice has been called in to manage his medications, but he's still doing well. Mary D. Parr fell and is having back problems. Keep her in your prayers. Since we were not able to gather in the church kitchen during September, multiple members of two circles have made sandwiches for the soup kitchens from their individual homes. The process went well, and we will continue to support this important mission in this manner every 2 weeks going forward. A big thank you to these resourceful women. We are currently conducting our pecan sale fundraiser that supports the sandwich making endeavors and the soup kitchen operations. Order forms can be submitted by printing off the form from the weekly newsletter or the website and sending the written completed form with your check to Sue Spears at the address on the form. Alternatively, you may go to the My Providence section of the church's website and place your order online. Please be sure, if you are ordering pecans online, that you include the convenience fee in your total. There's a box to check for a $1 fee for a draft to your checking or savings account, and a $3 fee if you're paying by credit card. And this isn't done automatically by the system, so I ask that you please do it, or else these fees will come out of our proceeds. The orders are due in just 11 days by October the 18th, so hurry and get your orders in. When the orders arrive from the grower, we will inform you of a date for a drive-by pickup here at the church. If you require delivery to your home, that can be arranged by contacting Sue Spears or Delta Sonderman. Please remember that there is no plan this year to purchase additional pecans to be sold later in person. So this is it. Order now. We announced in September that we are planning a petite cookie walk in December. We will be selling a limited variety of cookies by the dozen and a few crafts, the lighted balls, and some lighted stars, probably a total of about 15 different items, through the use of an order form similar to the system being used for the pecan sale. Purchases must be pre-ordered and prepaid. Knowing our proceeds may not reach the amount of our typical donations to UMAR, the Haiti Mission Foundation, and Partners for New Hope Hospital, we sincerely hope that you will be moved to also make a monetary donation this year. These missions are near and dear to our hearts, and we want to continue to support them even during the COVID shutdown. There will be more information to come in the weeks ahead. Now, let's turn our attention to our program today by Gail Smith. Gail founded the nonprofit Dahlia Grove in 2016 to encourage and employ women rescued from human trafficking, domestic violence, and sexual exploitation. The primary focus of her organization is to provide safe housing and long-term healing to give women a second chance at life. Gail is talented in two areas that have helped her in this endeavor. She is musically talented at playing the piano and the organ and producing musical performances. And she enjoys catering at multiple levels. Growing up in a pastor's home, Gail played the piano, the organ, for weddings that her father performed. And then she also helped her mother cater the receptions. While in college, Gail worked for a caterer where she honed her skills. Later, she worked in the catering department of a winery and also played the piano in their atrium. Following in her dad's footsteps, Gail has been involved in church work for 35 years, planning events, pageants, cantatas, and concerts for as many as 800 people, where she has been involved in the writing, the production, and the catering for the gatherings afterward. Gail has taught music in the public and the private sector, where she has planned and orchestrated musical reviews for up to 900 students, and often catered the receptions that followed those productions too. She also has been an executive chef for corporations, hosting conferences and retreats, and as a single mother, while all these other activities have been going on, she's always run a catering business as a hobby to supplement grow.
I think I learned more about me in that introduction than I knew myself. So Dahlia Grove was founded because I am a survivor of domestic violence, and because of the gifts and talents I had been endowed with, I was able to survive and land on my feet and be financially successful. And so I felt like that if I could do it, anybody could do it. And that's kind of where this grew from. I'm going to show you first a video that was actually gifted to us by Giovanni Films to be our promotional video that's on our website, and we use it frequently when we're speaking places. So this is the video. The meaning of a dahlia flower is to draw upon inner strength to make a lasting change in your life and to chart your own path. And that's so pertinent to what we do as an organization, to help these women grow and find that strength inside themselves. Hi, I'm Gail Smith, and I am the founder and executive director of Dahlia Grove. Dahlia Grove is a 501c3 nonprofit working with women in recovery from human trafficking, prostitution, domestic abuse, and sexual trauma. We're a 4-phase program where they can live rent-free for 2 years, where their number one job is to work on recovery and healing. Many of the women that come to us have lost their voice, lost their ability to hope or to dream that life could be different.
We seek affiliates to help these women with education, mental health, all their appointments for her eyes, their dental. We reach out to the community to just get the love poured into them as far as what they need. Every woman's different what they need at the time they come into the program. So we need volunteers. We need people that's going to help us build this program up to what it needs to be.
I have taught these ladies life skills such as how to set boundaries, what to let into their life and what to keep out. I have taught these ladies how to distinguish safe versus unsafe people, and what is okay to let into their life and what is not okay.
Because we do what we do, we're breaking that cycle of drug abuse, sexual trauma, and jail. And then they get out and they do the same thing. And so we're breaking that cycle. Your volunteering and your donations are literally changing lives. So I ask you to give what you can, because we need your support to survive.
Okay, so as you could tell in the video, I am the founder and the executive director. I am excited that as of August the 1st, we now have a program director, which you saw in the video, Shalita Gooch. Prior to that, I have done this by myself, and that is why we rely heavily on volunteers and churches and the faith community to make this happen. I am a Baptist preacher's daughter. I should say I'm a recovering Baptist because I'm a good Methodist now. I was on staff at Methodist churches for 30 years as music director, and it is out of the Methodist church that this mission and ministry grew. Strong support from our former DS, Mark Andrews. Some of you might have been at the UMW prayer breakfast that was held at St. Andrews, and Mark spoke about human trafficking, and he and I connected then, and he just said the Methodist Church needs to get behind this. And so I became, and the women I work with, catered most of the things they do at the conference level. We catered Mark's retirement reception, and then when David came in, we did his welcome reception, and we did all of the charge conferences. They're doing them group now, not individual churches, and that's actually where I met the pastor of Providence United Methodist Church, doing one of those receptions. So we're going to go through just talking about who we are and what we do. I've already said we're a 501c3 nonprofit working with women in recovery from human trafficking, domestic violence, and addictions. One thing that people don't think about, most of the time these three go hand in hand. Studies have shown that women who end up in prostitution or human trafficking typically were abused and molested by someone they trusted by the time they were 8 years old. So it is a societal problem that sets up the circumstances for these women to be easily coerced and forced into these situations. A lot of people think human trafficking is girls that have been abducted. Some of them are. Most, however, are not. Most are these women that were abused very young that set them up for vulnerability, where a pimp, or as they call them, boyfriend or daddy, or lots of terms they use, can come in and play on that vulnerability and get them into this situation. Then they frequently keep them drugged, and that's how they keep them under their thumb. They drug them during the day so they can sleep, and then at night they're expected to work all night. One of the girls told me that she was expected to do 40 to 50 tricks a night. And we wonder why their brains aren't quite right. They are very strong women. I frequently tell them a line I heard off of Law and Order, Sexual Victims Unit. She said, "You survive the trauma, you can survive the healing." So they're very strong. I don't know that I would have been able to stand up under some of the stresses that they've been under. So, one thing to remember, the FBI uses the terms force, fraud, and coercion to label it as human trafficking. Our organization kind of looks at it that any sexual exploitation is a form of human trafficking because it is the sale of a body, sale of human flesh, and that's just not what needs to be happening. So we're different from other organizations because we do have a social justice enterprise, and we believe that is the mission. It dawned on me one day that if they don't have a job and a way to support themselves, they'll go back to the streets and they'll go back to a lifestyle that they don't even want to be in because they don't have any other options. Many of them have felonies and will never get a job. So the social enterprise really is the mission because that's what's going to help them sustain themselves. And a lot of places in town have safe houses, and that's needed and very good, but we are different. We're kind of like maybe the step after the safe house because we are a 2-year rent-free residential program that focuses on healing and recovery and job training and job placement. So the next thing, we are a sister property of Thistle Farms. Thistle Farms is in Nashville, Tennessee, and they've been in existence for 25 years. It was founded by an Episcopal priest named Becca Stevens, who is an amazing author and speaker, and she's been a CNN hero and honored in a lot of ways. Thistle Farms does not provide financial support for us, but what they do is give us mentoring and training. One of the things that has been the most valuable to me, they give us all of their documents, all of their forms, all the releases, because when I started, I had no idea what to do or how to make all this happen. I knew what I was dreaming of, but I didn't know how to make it happen. And so by them giving us everything, we can just adapt it to put our name in and whatever our social enterprise is, and then adapt it to what we're doing. And it saved tons of work. So we are indebted to them for sure. When I started it in 2015, I was on staff at St. Andrews as the director of music ministries, but was on. So frequently people in the church that are getting married or having retirement parties will ask me to cater. So I had 3 weddings coming up that fall to cater. And so I thought, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do it. So I wrote a GoFundMe and set up a GoFundMe page to do on-the-job training because I was going to pay them while I was training them. And reached out to one of the safe houses here. And we did the weddings. They were great to work with. Some of the best images in my mind are when I have some of the ladies of the church work with me, and I walk into a room, and there are these former prostitutes and these women of the church sitting in the same circle having conversation about life. And those are precious times because those are the things that change these women. So they, like I said, have been in operation for 25 years, but that makes us a part of a 62 sister property national network. And we have Zoom meetings, and somebody says, well, I have this problem. How do you handle it? And so it becomes this support system to help us know how to handle things, and it is invaluable to what we are doing. We believe, like Thistle Farms does, that love is the greatest force for change in the world. And their tagline that you see everywhere is love heals. And when I visited there the first time, I thought this is the organization that I want to be connected with, because I do believe that in a loving environment and a community of people that will love and support these women, that they can be transformed. we've adopted as our tagline, empower to heal and employ to succeed. After that time, when we did the caterings in the fall, we were working predominantly for finding apartments and furnishing the apartments, and they still were catering with me, but it became very obvious that the cost of living is so high that what we could offer them as a job was not enough. And then they would get part-time jobs, and they ended up working all the time just to pay bills, which didn't leave time for healing and recovery and counseling and trauma therapy, all the things that they so desperately need. And so we realized we needed to get a house. So in August of 2019, we opened our first house. We have 4 beds. And actually the video that you watched was filmed in the house. It's a charming house, and volunteers just were amazing in the way they decorated it. And it is a home. And when these women come, we give them a key to their home. And we try to let them feel like that's a safe place and a home where they can grow and heal. This is kind of a funny story. There were a lot of things that unfolded that were like, wow, kind of moments. When I did my GoFundMe page, I explained that my dad was a Baptist preacher, which is probably where I got my mission mind and mission heart. I saw mission lived every day of my life. And my daughter called and said, Mom, what are you going to name this company? And I said, I don't know. Why? She said, you need to call it Dahlia Grove, because dahlia were Pop's favorite flower, and this is a way we can keep a legacy and a tribute to Pop. And I thought, oh, that's so sweet. And then my other daughter, who's a little bit of my flower child, called me and said, Mom, have you looked up the meaning and symbolism of the dahlia flower? And I said, no. And she says, do it now while we're on the phone. So I get out my computer and I type in meaning and symbolism of dahlia flower. And the meaning and the symbolism of dahlia flower is to draw upon inner strength to make a lasting change in one's life and to chart your own path. Now, there's no way my dad knew that, but is that coincidence? Or is that divine leading? So we've had lots of those moments when it's validation that we are doing something good. So, and that really sums up what we do. We are a 4-phase program, and when they first come to us, the first phase is about 6 months, and they work on getting drug assessments, mental health assessments, physical examinations, eye doctor, dentist, all the things that they have gone without for quite a while. And they also go to Anuvia for a drug assessment, and then they usually go to a 12-week drug treatment plan. It's intensive outpatient program. During this phase, they also do 90 meetings in 90 days. So it is an intensive work to reprogram their brain. And I say all the time that it is kind of like reverse brainwashing, because the pimps and the people in the sex industry have berated them and put them down so long they don't think they can do anything else, and they're not worth anything. And I don't think it's by accident that the Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's what we do. We work to help them transform their mind. So phase 1, it's about 6 months. During this time, they have no access to electronics. They can use the computer to email and stay in contact with their families, but no cell phone, no anything. Because frequently, the pimps will put a tracker in their phone. And so we don't want any of that. So we did stay with the gardening thing, by the way. The first one is preparing the soil, and I kind of think of it just like gardening. If you're going to plant a garden, before you do anything, you've got to prepare the soil. You've got to take all the bad stuff out. You've got to get the roots gone. You've got to get the rocks gone so that you then can plant the good stuff. So that's what the biggest part of phase 1 is. Some of the providers and people we have partnered with is the Matthews Free Medical Clinic, Anuvia, Brave Step, Fashion and Compassion, Dress for Success, Safe Alliance does their sexual trauma therapy. So it is really a community thing to make this happen. So the next phase, plant the seed. planting the seed involves starting to do personality and career assessments, and we work with CPCC on their career assessment and choosing whether they're going to go to school, to college. The whole time they're working with us in catering. Now, until COVID hit, we were doing the Wednesday night meals at St. Andrews, but we were managing the kitchen at Matthews United Methodist Church. So we had two churches that were really helping to fund us and support us, but then COVID hit and we couldn't do any food service and all funding stopped. So it's been a rough time for us. So phase 2, they are allowed to get a part-time job. They can only work 20 hours because we still believe that their recovery is the most important work that they're doing, and we don't want them, and plus all their expenses are paid for. They really don't need a lot of money. So we let them work. We do help them with their finances. Sometimes they do this very reluctantly, but we help them learn to budget. We help them learn to save. They're required from the time they get a job to start saving 10% of their income into a savings account, and we keep track of that. They have to show us the receipts and the statement where they're not taking the money out, and so it's really instilling them the importance of savings. So we go to phase 3, and it's blossom and bloom. So this is usually, if they've chosen to go to college, it's continuing in college or a trade school or like that. But they begin to look at what's life going to be like when I leave, because this is their last year, and they start looking at how much is housing going to cost, how much is groceries going to cost, how much, and really beginning to work on living as though they were paying rent. And then they're required to save 30% of their salary, because 30% is about what you're going to spend on housing. And so they do that. But in phase 3, we match their savings account dollar for dollar up to $1,200, so that when they leave the organization, they have a nest egg to help them pay their deposits on apartments, help them on a down payment with a car. And it just sets, well, the furnishings for the apartment. I mean, there's a lot of things that this money helps them get a head start in life. So after Blossom and Bloom, they go to Sisters for Life. This is a part where they've moved out on their own, but we still touch base with them every month for about 3 months, and then we'll spread it out to every 3 months and then every 6 months, just to keep in touch with them and to encourage them to stay in their therapy, see how they're doing, how their job's going. We do always invite them to come back for any of our activities, and I'll explain some of the activities because the schedule is quite rigorous, actually. But that last phase is preparing them to move out on their own. And we have a big graduation ceremony, and then when they move out on their own, we help them with all of that. But we hope that they never feel alone, that they always have a group of sisters to encourage them and support them and be there for them. I mentioned the program all the way from phase 1 to phase 3. They also have classes every afternoon at the house that they're required to attend. Sometimes it's arts and crafts, sometimes it's self-care, which could include nutrition, financial stuff, because they don't know a lot about self-care. We have a lady that came and helped them learn how to clean a house effectively. Some of them come and don't even know how to make a bed. So it's an interesting situation for sure. So Tuesdays, they typically have a one-on-one with the program director to do life coaching and to set goals that we help them every week monitor. Are we meeting our goals? What do we need to change? On Wednesday, we have job readiness skills, where I ask several chefs to come in and teach a lesson on food service or meal prep or presentation. Thursday, we have a volunteer that takes them to the grocery store and to the YMCA. And then Friday, we have a volunteer that does a book study with them. They're currently doing A Purpose-Driven Life. And one of the others two others that they've done that have been very helpful a volunteer from Matthews did, safe people, and just understanding who is a safe person for you to trust, and then how to set healthy boundaries. So this is what they do every day. It's constantly putting into their brain a new way to think. And sometimes when they get angry, the street mentality comes out. One time I stood between two that were about to get in a fight, and I thought, oh, that was a dumb thing. I just backed up. But they have strong street smarts, but they don't know how to survive in the real world. We also partner with Goodwill Industries, which is an amazing organization. They have Goodwill University, and we require them to do a basic computer class. They do a customer service class, and then a class on finance through Goodwill Industries. So that brings me to how can you help? As I said, until August the 1st, I was doing this by myself, and were it not for volunteers, we couldn't have done any of this. So we need volunteers. One of the things you can do is follow us on Facebook and Instagram, because we publish all of our events and things that are happening and our celebrations on those two media platforms. Support our events and fundraisers. Sometimes we have Dine and Donate that a restaurant will give back part of the proceeds, and the more people we have to do that, the more proceeds go in our pocket. We have a gala once a year, a big spring gala that typically raises about, I'd say 65-70% of our operating capital for the year, but it was canceled this year. So the funding has been very, very hard. Help in our social enterprise. Sometimes we have weddings and events that are so big that I need more than just 4 people to help me. If you like to dabble in food service and would like to volunteer your time to help us with that, that's another way you can be very helpful. Another way is to become an influencer. And I don't know how many of you know that term, but influencers typically are people on Facebook and Instagram that have a huge following and they share everything. Now, you may not have a huge following, but if we had everybody who's listening right now to share to their circle of friends and on their Facebook page, it would increase our circle, and that's what it's going to take for this to grow and succeed. And then volunteer. So, ways you can volunteer. Teach a class. We all the time are looking for people who want to teach a class. Maybe you have a craft. Maybe you have a skill set. Maybe a book that you read that you just thought, oh gosh, this would be so great to do with these women. We constantly need volunteers. We plan their afternoon schedule usually about 6 to 8 weeks in advance, and we have volunteer training Zoom sessions every month, and then we can plug you in and let you start helping. Become a mentor. The ones that don't have addictions are few and far between, but just having a mentor, somebody that will send them a birthday card. Most holidays are spent completely by themselves. Their families have disowned them, and this becomes their family. So to send Christmas cards or to call them or to take them to lunch occasionally means a lot to them. And I personally think the more role models they have of successful women, the better it is for them. Be on the fundraising committee. This is a huge one because right now we're trying to fundraise like crazy because our gala didn't happen. We do have 3 things coming up this fall that I would encourage you to support, and you'll find out about those by following us on Facebook. Because I am a musician and have done church work most of my life, I reached out to my church musicians, my school musicians, and I decided to have a concert. And so I had to turn people away that wanted to perform and give of their time and talents to make this happen. And then we have a church that will host it. We've had one at St. Stephen, and we had one at Sharon Presbyterian. And all they do is provide the space and the sound system, and the musicians show up and perform, and we take up a love offering, and we generally make about $2,500 each time we do this. But it's exciting to me to use my first love to support this mission. And the way the musicians in the church and in the community have supported that has been great. Be on the advisory committee. Maybe you don't want to be on the board of directors, don't want to be that involved, but the advisory committee is where you can be on various different committees and be a support person. And of course, we do need board members. I think we have 3 vacancies right now. So if anybody's interested in being a board member to help this organization succeed, we welcome the conversation. And then I always need administrative help because I am a musician and a little free-spirited. So I need people who know how to file and operate a donor database and QuickBooks and all of those. So if you have any of those skills and would love to help, I would love to talk with you. There's also just writing thank you notes, handwritten thank you notes to the people who donate. And all of that is time consuming. And I am most of the time doing my work with the women, and all that other stuff just stacks up. So that is a huge need that we have. And the biggest way you can help us is donate, donate, donate. You know, we have 750 people database right now, and if every person pledged to give $25 a month, if every person pledged to give $25 a month, it would be simple ways that you can reach us if you want to volunteer or if you have an organization that wants us to come share about our organization. Of course, our website is a sustaining member, and then that's one of our sustaining members, and then my email to a monthly contribution, and then my phone number. The website, one of the things you can really do that would help, we have a shop where you can actually shop for gifts, and those proceeds go to support this organization. So that's our organization in a nutshell. It's pretty intense, and we are continuing to grow following the leadership of Thistle Farms. I want to end with a video. Becca Stevens' son is quite the accomplished musician in Nashville, Tennessee, and he wrote a song called Love Heals, which is the theme of most of these organizations.
Hate kills, birds fly, rocks roll, tears cry, and love heals. Whiskey burns, records scratch, wheels turn, sparks catch, and love heals. Oh, I've never seen a broken heart, one shattered and torn apart, that could not come back together. And I've never known a life so heavy, couldn't stand on legs unsteady, and one day run light as a feather. Baby, here's a deal. Love heals. Sunsets, suns rise, on regrets and alibis. Dreamers dream, some dreams come true. Well, copy dream, a hell that's coffee black, and heaven that's sky blue. Oh, I've never seen a broken one day gets broke. It's some kind of mystery, but this much I know. Love heals.
So that's who we are, what we do, and our passion is to love these women until they can love themselves and stand on their own feet. So I encourage you to get involved any way you can, because we depend on the faith community for our financial support and for our volunteers. So thank you again for letting me share.
Thank you, Gail. You provided a great overview of Dahlia Grove, and I hope that this may lead us to be mission partners in some manner in the future. I'm so happy we've been able to connect virtually with you today. I want to alert you to one schedule change in November. Instead of being on the first Tuesday, which is Election Day, we will be live streaming on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock, November the 5th. So I hope you'll be able to join us then or watch the recorded version. I hope our program has encouraged you to reach out to others and to lift each other up through prayer, always remembering ones less fortunate who are struggling during this time. I treasure the UMW community of fellowship, and I'm sure that you do too. Normally, if we were together, we would be getting ready to go to lunch, and we always would emphasize the mission of the month at lunch. And the church's mission of the month is very appropriate for our concern and support. It is Roof Above for October. And of course, you're probably aware that Urban Ministry and the men's shelter have merged into a Roof Above. So our sandwich mission is a part of Roof Above. Also, if we were together, we would join hands and sing our closing hymn, Blessed Be the Tie That Binds. Wherever you are now, imagine we're together, standing in a circle, surrounded by friends of all ages, and listen as I recite our closing. Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love. The fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above. Amen. Thank you for being with us today.